Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Family Travel Trends for the New Decade. My name is Michelle Marie Arian, and I'm the Managing Editor for Recommend Magazine and the moderator of today's webinar, which has been made possible by Recommend and its partner, the Family Travel Association, as well as the following sponsors: Bahia Príncipe Hotels and Resorts, Iberostar Hotels and Resorts, and the beaches of Fort Myers and Sanibel. This webinar is a complement to the Family Travel Trends Survey that was conducted on recommend.com, as well as the Family Travel Trends Report, which starting today is available for download from the handout section of the webinar. If you don't know where to find that, it's on the right-hand side column. There's a little handle that says handouts. If you click on the arrow, you can see it and you can download it right there. During this conversation, our distinguished panelists will speak about the current family travel trends and the ones that will make a mark in this decade. Why it's important for travel advisors to remind families that they need to carve out time for family travel and create family travel plans, and how to tap into the powerful emotions of family travel. Before we officially begin, here's some housekeeping items. During the presentation, if anybody listening in has any questions, feel free to enter your questions in the question box. It's also found on the right-hand side of your user handle. We'll gather them together and hold a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Don't worry if you missed something. This webinar is being recorded and you will be sent a link after. For those who attend the entire presentation, one attendee will receive a $100 gift card and all attendees will receive 1 CEU credit. As an accompaniment to this webinar, you can access the Family Travel Trends Report. Again, it can be downloaded on the right-hand side in the handout section. A link will also be included in the follow-up email. Now, let's get started by introducing our panelists. You want to wave so everyone knows who you are? First, we have Richard D'Ambrosio. He's a family travel expert. And then we have 3 travel advisors with the Family Travel Association. Jennifer Shanks. She's a travel advisor and founder of Family Travel Adventures Week. Jennifer uses her background in social work, along with 20 years of international travel, to connect families with the local people, and while experiencing the local culture and giving back to the communities they visit. That sounds fun. Kimberly Mills. She's the owner and chief memory officer at Family Travel Boutique. Kimberly specializes in all aspects of family and multi-gen travel, including Disney, cruising, and all-inclusive. Family in real life. There we go. And then we have Crystal Dyer. She is the owner of Gone Again Travel and Tours and also has a business concierge service for those traveling. Now, Richard, you can take it away. We'd like to hear from you and your expertise on family travel.
Well, thank you. Thanks to Recommend Magazine, to the Family Travel Association for sponsoring today's event. I've been in and out of the family travel space and the travel space for years. And these 3 individuals with us today are just 3 of the most phenomenal travel advisors. And I definitely, if you reach out to them, they're generous of their spirit. So I highly recommend you getting to know your experts today a little bit more. There are the premier researcher in the family travel space is the Family Travel Association. And over the years, there have been some consistent behaviors and attitudes that have come out of the FTA's research that is going to be profound for anybody on this call, even in these times that we live in. I mean, here you have, the 5 of us, and we're all working from home because of coronavirus. We're all dealing with different issues, but one of the things that we know that we can build on with hope for the future is that there are very strong motivators that families make a decision to travel, and that will come back. That's not going away after this crisis is over. And I just want to go over some of those concepts with you so that you can understand the strength you can tap into for the future of your family travel space. So, for example, when the FTA explores what are the chief motivators for families to travel, and creating memories is the number one thing. It's closely followed by, I want to take my children to certain places, and I want my children to understand different cultures. So if you read between the lines on those three data points, what you have is that when families go and travel, and what you're trying to curate on their behalf is kind of exposing moms and dads, aunts and uncles, whoever's organizing that trip, to create something more than just, riding a roller coaster, sitting by a pool on a cruise ship. They're looking for you to give them guidance and to inspire them to almost envision what would those memories look like. And Ms. Shanks is, when it comes to culture and places, boy, that woman's got it down pat. And when you start to understand that those things are always will remain strong, and that when discretionary income is there, the way you post Facebook posts or social media posts, what you say on your website around those motivators, you can leverage that when the time is right to get those consumers back into your sales funnel and start inspiring them to travel again. So that's kind of what I wanted to say at the beginning of this, is to give you guys a ray of hope that we are going to come out of this, that human beings don't change. I don't care what anybody says. We've been traveling since 3,000 years, maybe more, and we do it with the same motivations. So with that, I'm going to shut up and listen to my peers.
If you can all just introduce yourselves and what you mostly focus on. How you travel.
Okay, I'll go first. My name is Jennifer Shanks. I live in Boston, Massachusetts. And I think, as you mentioned in the intro, I focus on custom family travel. We do a lot of sort of off the beaten track destinations, a lot of sort of really just curated to your individual family, and really try and dive deep into the cultures that we visit. We want each vacation to be really unique to the destination, not necessarily, to the brand that we're visiting, where it's really about the destination, the culture, the people, and finding ways to get families to connect. I think a lot of times we hear families say that, they wish they had done more in the destination that they were visiting. So trying to tap into that a little bit.
Kim?
Hi, I'm Kim Milnes with Family Travel Boutique, and I am in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And Family Travel Boutique. So I specialize in families, groups. Multi-generational is a big one for me. So having a lot of grandparents take their kids. I definitely, Disney is a big piece of my business. But as my clients have gotten older, the kids have gotten older, so now I really am seeing them expand into the world a little bit more, and wanting to have, visiting Europe, and definitely wanting to have those bigger first-time experiences to give their kids, a bigger taste and a bigger bite of the world, and getting away from those regular destinations, which I'm very excited about.
Crystal?
Okay, I'm Crystal Dyer, and I'm here in Chicago, Illinois, sunny Chicago. And my company, Gone Again Travel and Tours, my major focus for families is heritage travel. A lot of families they have those bucket list trips. They've done all the beaches and the Disney and all of those other things, and now they want to go out into the world and research their heritage. And so it's amazing, how I can take a person who maybe in some cases has never left the United States and put them anywhere in the world. So it's really exciting for me also.
Thank you. And now, Richard, if you can tell us a little bit about the FTA NYU annual survey that the Family Travel Association conducted.
Well, I'm not currently with the FTA, but I have had a relationship with them over the years. And the FTA survey, the last year was probably their largest ever in terms of number of people who participate. It is the results from the survey, and it's free to members. So if you want to become a member, I strongly recommend you go over to the familytravel.org website and sign up. But the research is probably the deepest into what families purchase, their motivation and behavior. And last year, they really delved deep into this new concept of gramping, grandparents traveling with children without the middle group, the parents of those children, so the grandchildren. And it's really interesting stuff, because what it does for travel advisors is it helps you think about what are the themes that you're promoting when you post a social media post. One of the things that I observe working with travel advisors on their marketing and their communications is too often we're doing what the suppliers want us to do. We're posting stuff from suppliers and we're talking about promotions. And while that's all good and informative for families, what we all know, and I think everybody on this call, and Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong, I know that the three travel advisors are all moms. I know that they have children, and I think at least one of you is a grandmother. Because Crystal and I know each other from a previous life. What we know is that emotion is what motivates somebody as a parent to book a vacation. It's not just Disney. When I first took my daughter at 4 years old to Disney World, my daughter loved princesses. And I will never forget standing on Main Street with her, waiting for the parade to come down the street. And when a princess and a prince walked over to my daughter and they grabbed each one of her hands and took her out into the street to dance to the music, you could have put me on the plane and flown me home at that moment. Because what motivated me to take Nicole to Disney World was done. I had it. I got to see my daughter dancing in front of everybody on Main Street at Disney World, and she was so happy. And that's what the FTA research tells you if you become a member. Is it lets you think about what are the things that moms and dads are thinking about, and then post those stories that may come from your personal history, may come from your client testimonials, and get deep into that. So that's the emotional side of it. There's also statistical sides of the research. And the number one challenge that moms and dads have, that grandparents, aunts, uncles, anybody who wants to take a child under 18 have, number one issue is affordability. Not a big surprise, but figuring out a way to make the family travel dollar go faster. These travel advisors in front of you, and you should be mimicking them. That's what they do. They try to market to people to say, give me what you want to accomplish. Give me a budget, and I'm going to try to make that work for you, because affordability means something different to everybody. Believe it or not, people who make $500,000 a year still have an affordability issue. It just looks different than somebody who's got an $85,000 a year salary. But figuring out how to massage that budget, you should be talking about that through your blogs, through your social media. Once you get past the affordability issue, you can start to see what do families treasure, what do they value when they're making decisions about things like accommodation. Believe it or not, the three top things that are the most important amenities to adults taking kids on a vacation: free Wi-Fi at their lodging, and that's like number one at the highest level. Free breakfast. There's the affordability issue. You took a meal off my budget. I don't have to pull out my charge card to pay for breakfast. I only have to pay for 2 meals during the day. Great, thanks so much. And then free parking's up there too. And then after that starts to come things like, what are the amenities? What are the amenities for me as a parent? So it's interesting that this concept of affordability being the most important thing then translates into what you should be marketing. And when you're qualifying a client and looking for the right properties to book them into, thinking, does this solve that affordability issue for them? So that's just a little bit about what the research shows.
It's interesting that you talked about what advisors share on their social media platforms. We attended a conference, and what they on social media was one of the panels, and what they were telling advisors was your best asset is when you travel yourself with your family and posting those. That's what your clients want to see. If you get photos of other clients traveling that they might send you, post those because it creates the idea that people want to make those same memories.
Yes.
Mhm.
And you know what? If you're sitting at that all-inclusive or the hotel that you booked, and you can mention that, just want to let you know, I'm posting live on the free Wi-Fi here. This breakfast came
Mhm.
with the package for this particular piece of property. Yup, you're telling that story, and then you're adding in that trigger that's already in their heads. How do I make that trip affordable? Perfect. Yep.
Yes. Okay, we have a few questions to get our discussions going. So first, how do you see the motivations for taking vacations as described by the FTA NYU survey shaping the way you approach marketing and selling family travel to your clients? So Richard already kind of touched upon that. If anybody else has any comments or ideas or best practices.
I pretty much make it, I very rarely, if never, will post deals, sales, anything on my social media. That's not what I'm selling. When it's about my vacations, it's destination photos, it's a funny meme or, laughter, things to get a conversation started and to get engagement. So that's kind of the rule that I have learned, and I definitely do follow that.
Right. And for me, for me, okay, thank you. For me, I post a lot of experiences because I have a lot of Facebook followers and people. I mean, they're looking every day, and so to see my experiences, see me out in the world, see me out, taking my grandson on a Disney cruise, posting. Collages of my clients because they all send me pictures, right? And oh God, tell me about their wonderful vacations, and I'll post those pictures and say thank you for joining our family. And I mean, I can go to the grocery store and people will stop me and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, you're Crystal." And I'm like, "Oh yeah." So we don't know who's watching us. And so to always be positive and show those experiences, it takes people outside of their everyday humdrum lives, actually, and helps them have that vision to dream.
Yeah.
I am just going to touch on what Richard said about your own family photos. I always try when I'm posting pictures of my family during our travels or after our travels is it's not the most perfect picture. It's not the most beautiful picture. It's not my children smiling in front of like this really, important background or something like that. It's usually the children active, like running, laughing, playing, like actually I try to make it so that you can see them actually making the memory, touching on, that theme of why people travel is that they want to make those memories. So I really try to get that. You can see the kids actually enjoying themselves. So sometimes it's just their back, but they're like running or chasing or laughing or whatever they're doing. And just getting that sense of like them enjoying themselves and us together as a family making a memory versus just cheese.
Yeah. Our next question, Richard also kind of briefly touched upon it already, but affordability has consistently remained the #1 issue for over 5 editions of the FTA NYU survey. Do you see that changing anytime in the near future? And I guess with the current climate, what are your thoughts?
I definitely think that is going to be the biggest factor going forward for families. I think people will stick their toes in the water, and they're going to travel. They're going to. It's going to happen. But I think that will, I foresee that being something, questions, and I've already had people saying, reaching out to me. So, let me know when the deals start coming out. And I'm like, okay, but I mean, for my family, I can only speak for my family. I'm ready to go right now, but I know that, the cost will be something that I will be thinking about for a little bit.
Okay, well, for me, I always promoted my business as from one step from your front door to anywhere in the world. And so to, always encourage people, to, with staycations, smaller things that, can ramp them up. And then also the payment plans, I always encourage people to plan in advance. So now during this time, I'm really looking to encourage people to start planning for their end of the year trips and their 2021 trips, which will, encourage them to possibly think about it, take them out of this moment that's going on right now.
Yeah. Crystal's got a really great concept, and she actually has a charity locally in Chicago that really kind of feeds into that whole concept, where she takes, through her nonprofit, she takes young people to local tourist attractions, to venues, museums, educational centers, and she kind of gets them started down this path of, this is travel too. And that's really an effective way for any travel advisor to start working somebody along the sales funnel. Is, it doesn't have to be, Jennifer, last year went to Panama with her family. It doesn't have to be the trip to Panama. It could be the trip to, the Pennsylvania Gettysburg area for a family that loves history or something. And you're just getting them started down the path. And once a family starts to see that an investment in travel is important, that phrase affordability changes. And it also changes as they grow older and they make more money and their lifestyle changes. Affordability doesn't mean budget cheap. It means something different to almost every client. But working them through the sales funnel the way that Crystal does is very effective. You hook them with the emotions of, wow, you opened my eyes to something, and now I want to make that happen again and again.
The next question is, how hard is it for you to obtain a budget estimate from new clients who perhaps haven't grown to know? Is this an issue for you?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think that coming with a budget number is really hard for clients. Not because I think they're trying to like hide it. They really don't know. They know what they want to do. They don't know how much it's going to cost them. If I can get a range, that's great. There are times where my clients really just can't even give me a range. They're just like, I have no idea what this is possibly going to cost me. We've never taken a trip anything like this before. We want to go to Europe for 2 weeks. We don't have a clue. And so I tell them, I give them a range and see what that feels like to them. And then I'll put together a trip for them. With a quote, with a number on it. And then if it's too high, we sort of just look, we talk over the phone, we go through it, we figure out where we can, I'll fill it up, give them everything they wanted. And then that's really when you can see where their priorities are, what's important to them, what's a little less important to them, what they can do with a guide, what they can do without a guide. And we can make cutbacks like that. And I think, especially when it's a first time client, being able to do that with them is really, really helpful for them. And then moving forward, they have a better idea of what their budget really is, I think, for future trips.
Anybody else?
I would say, yeah, I'll definitely fill it up, especially in my Europe, when they say they want to do, and it's, when I give it to them, it's, the multiple days, the private guides, the things like that. And because then I can always walk it back. When they see it, and they're like, oh, so it's a little more than we were thinking. And because I'll say, how do you want to travel? Do you want to travel by just your family? Do you want to travel in a group with other people? And then it gives me somewhere to go. If okay, well, we can look at small group travel, small groups then, to save you some money and still get you to do those things that you really want to do.
Yeah. Well, here in Chicago, I don't normally have a problem with people with their budgets, because when I talk to people, I pretty much, I have a form on my website, first of all, but then I have a nice conversation with them, and we come to a common, amount. And then I've been doing this so long, I can tell them right then, if their budget is too low, they'll need to expand it a bit. And so before I get off of that first call, I try to have them very comfortable where they can say, okay, I have more of a chance where they'll go ahead and finalize that journey. And then once I give them the quote, we'll go over it, once or twice to get it where they need it to be.
What kind of influence do you find children have on vacation planning process? Does this change by the age of the children? And how do you manage their input or the dynamic the parents and the children maybe don't agree on what they want to do or where they want to go? Anybody can chime in first.
Well, parents, I deal mostly with the parents. So, as far as that's concerned, but, of course, with my local journeys that I deal with the youth, I have, in those cases, youth have more input on the types of trips. But for international journeys, it's normally the parents. I never actually even in some cases meet the kids. Okay. The parents are like, this is what's happening.
Jennifer, Kim, do you have experience with the kids chiming in?
Yeah, I am. Well, first of all, my background is in family therapy, so I feel like I love talking to the kids. I love their input. And in the planning process, if I can involve the kids, I will. Sometimes it's, a parent's calling me from their working hours or something, and it's not quite possible. I really do try and meet with clients before they go. So that's usually when I meet the kids, is right before they go, and I can answer their questions. And sometimes, I try and have a gift for them. But if I'm not speaking to the kids, if I'm speaking to the parents, I ask about the kids a lot. I get a lot of their what their interests are. I ask about, well, what were they like during their last vacation? When did they whine? When did they complain? What did they enjoy? And I get that input. And I think that really helps to keep the kids. Parents are usually pretty in tune. The differences between the two parents, I find a bigger issue than between the parent and the kids. They usually have pretty strong opinions. I find that the kids usually step up to the challenge that the parents are presenting them with, and it works well. But I get as much influence from the kids as I can possibly get.
Since you mentioned it, how do you manage conflicting opinions from the two parents?
I try and get them both on the phone, especially if I'm talking to a husband or a wife and they're like, well, my husband won't like that, but, or my wife, well, that's not what my wife, you can kind of get that sense right away that they're not on the same page. And then, when it's a second trip or a third trip I've done with a family and I know that they're very different, I get them both on the phone at the same time, because I don't want to plan a trip that your husband's going to hate.
Yeah.
So I do set up a time. I say, well, let's get a phone call that the three of us can talk, because I really need to balance that. They can be really different. Parents have very different travel styles, I've found, you know, not always on the same thing.
Saving marriages here.
Yeah. That's my goal. But we try and compromise. I'm like, all right, well, this fits into your budget, but this is going to be what her comfort level is. What do you think? And I really do try, because I think it's important for, no one to feel like they're sacrificing their vacation to make their other family members happy. Like, everyone should be enjoying themselves, and how to figure that out is fun.
It's fun.
That's the therapy background coming in.
Yeah.
I
like a challenge.
Our next question: when it comes to lodging and accommodations, what are some of your tricks for helping get families into the best fit for their lifestyle and budget?
Questions.
Yeah.
I always ask, where did you stay? Your most recent trip, what type of hotel did you stay at? I have a lot of large families. I found more and more recently, 5 and bigger, a family of 5 and larger, and a lot of, and not getting guaranteed connecting rooms can be a big problem. So that definitely plays into where I'm looking for them, you know, or, you know, dad wants to do, hey, let's, like my husband, let's do, remember when we rented that house and let's do that. I'm like, no, that's not vacation. I don't want to cook. You know, I want a hotel with amenities, you know. So, you know, so that's, you know, just trying to get those questions answered by the client.
Right. Yeah. And I've had families. I had a client that she wanted to take her whole family on a beach vacation. And, you know, first thing they think, yeah, I'm going to rent a house in Florida. And I'm like, no, you're not. So, you know, I threw around some ideas, you know, sent her some things, and she ended up taking the entire family to Cozumel, Mexico. Okay, and you know, to a 5-star resort, all inclusive, you know, where they had their individual cabanas, you know, and hey, you know,
Nice.
I mean, from a house where you got to cook in Florida to, like, I mean, they were very happy, and she's referred,
Crystal?
you know, all her friends.
Crystal, can I ask, why did you, when they said that they wanted to use a house, why did you say no? What did you hear during the qualifying phase that made you go, no, you're not?
Well, what I heard was, you know, you got, you know, of course, all ages, and that's not a real vacation for me either. And so I treat my clients like I would treat myself. And I, you know, I explain that to them also, and they can feed into that. They actually appreciate that. That, you know, I would give them, or you know, that number one, I have the experience to be able to, you know, look at the world because I've traveled it, and to say, hey, you know, this would be more comforting for your family where you could really enjoy, because you know it was still going to be a lot of money for what she wanted, but you know this way you could truly and enjoy it and create those memories that she really was setting out to do, versus just sitting around in this house and and beach.
I do genuinely think that suppliers are getting a little bit better with meeting this need. It is a need. Families of 5 and more, you know, finding comfortable accommodations is an issue. And they don't want to just, you know, go online and find it, go on one of those websites and find something, you know. So I do think that bigger name brands are doing a much better job with this, getting like serviced apartments. So you have an apartment, you have the space, but you also have, you know, a breakfast. You know, I stayed in Portugal and in an apartment, beautiful apartment, and had breakfast delivered by a beautiful basket with like hot, warm croissants and juice and everything, coffee, you know, delivered to my door every morning. So they're there, they do exist, and suppliers are getting better with kind of meeting those needs of larger families. But it does take some digging.
I had a similar experience at an apartment in Scotland, and I loved it. The breakfast basket is beautiful.
Perfect. Yeah, it's for me, it's perfect.
Okay. How do you see the current coronavirus crisis reshaping the future of family travel, including the types of trips families take and the destinations? Do you believe that this experience will have a long-lasting effect on family travel?
I do think it's going to have a long-lasting effect, and I think it's going to be, the long-lasting effect will be positive. I think the immediate situation, you know, we have to kind of deal with the economics of it all. I think was still very uncertain, and affordability being an issue, and you know, working with the uncertainty of jobs and finances. So I think once we get past that, I think I hope the long lasting effect is that we've spent a lot of time with our families when this is all said and done. And we've realized that you don't necessarily need some big giant, I don't know what I'm trying to say, sorry, motivating to have an amazing time. The memories I hope for my kids after all this said and done, is all the bike rides we took, the zip line we hung, all these little things that we're doing and enjoying together as a family. I really hope that families are able to realize how important that is, and you don't have to spend, thousands and thousands of dollars to make those memories. But I do think that memories are created when we're all present and we're together, and families make that happen, and coronaviruses make that happen too, apparently. But I also think that we're also the idea of not putting it off, not putting that vacation off, for families who last year wanted to take a vacation and they put it off, and they, and now finally this big vacation they've been planning for 5 years is happening in May, and now it's not. So like, oh, if only we had taken it last year. I'm hearing people say those kinds of things. And I think that is the impact, is really giving us time to sit back, reflect, think about how important our families are, how fast our kids grow up, and how important it is to spend time with them. And once it gets busy again and we all ramp up and get back to business as usual across the country, I think we're going to miss some of these moments, and we're going to want to make them happen again. And family travel is the best way to do that.
Beautifully said.
Yes, definitely.
Crystal or Kim, do you have any comments on that?
You just, Jennifer said it all.
She said it all. She did it.
That's
She said it.
Okay, so what are your family clients doing in terms of bookings? Are they rescheduling, looking ahead? What are your bookings looking like now at the moment?
Well, all mine canceled.
No.
Well, I did have some of my cruise clients choose for a future, but the other types of the air land packages up to maybe June, but all the ones from July going forward, they're still on the books.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a lot of people just modify their dates. That we have the first week in November here in New Jersey is Jersey Week. So they have teachers convention, and some of the schools are going to have off. So they see that where they were going to go for spring break, it's just another good school option. So I'm trying to promote that. How about Jersey Week?
Yeah.
Why don't we do that?
Yeah, I'm pretty like 50-50 with rescheduling versus full cancellation. And again, I think the uncertainty of the economic situation, is the reason why people are canceling fully and trying to get refunded. But I think that, others realize the importance of the vacation that they had planned, and how much work that we all put in together to plan it, and how important it is to them. And they're just, rescheduling for, a lot of them are doing like next spring. They're, waiting an entire year, but
Wow.
they'll travel again.
Yeah. We're seeing some trends that are indicating that the great outdoors or national parks and some staycations are places travelers are seeking for in the near future after all of this. Have you heard anything like that from your clients that might support this?
I actually have, 4 or 5 families that were already planning national park vacations this summer. So, they're asking me, because they're seeing, like, since Grand Tetons just closed and those, but I'm telling them, just because too many people were going to the park, it's not that there's an issue there. Not that there's an issue there. So, I'm just telling them to wait right now. But, I saw it as a trend. So I hope, I'm hoping that it will continue, because they were already looking forward to do it this summer already. Banff and Yellowstone.
Nice places. Jennifer or Kim, Crystal or Kim, have you seen, Crystal or Jennifer, have you seen any of that happening or no?
I've had 2, I didn't realize it was a trend, but I have had 2 trips not canceled yet, but they do have I have 2 European trips this summer, and they're saying, okay, well, if we can't go to Europe, what do you think? Like, what are other options? What about a dude ranch? What about a national park? They're already looking, they want to travel this summer. They have their, their weeks off. One family in particular is 2 doctors, and time off is hard, especially right now. And they are hoping that they will have that vacation that's already in the books, and they're not going to go to Italy. they want to go domestic, and another family is in a very similar situation. So I think that the idea of being outside it feels good to
that's what we're
people
hearing.
right now, and you know, and traveling domestically feels a little more secure than internationally right now. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot more of that. Like I said, I had two and didn't consider it a trend until I read it.
What we're hearing from the national parks is that you're more outdoors, it's more spaced out, you're not cramped in a group
Right.
setting or with other people around you. So
I'd go right now.
yeah.
For sure.
Okay, the industry experts we've interviewed for the Family Travel Trends Report are indicating that sustainable travel will grow in popularity as more millennials become parents. Is this something you're seeing in your bookings? No? Yes? Sustainable
Not so
travel?
much for me, no.
No? No? No?
I think so. I think I am. I don't know the exact age where I cut off millennials and not, but
Yeah.
I see a lot more, like a lot younger families in general. A lot of the families that reach out to me, again, because I do kind of specialize in some off the beaten path destinations, they are former travelers themselves. They traveled a lot when they were in their 20s. Maybe they backpacked, they took a gap year. Like they're similar to myself, where they traveled before and then they stopped. They had a family, they focused on their careers, and now their kids are just a little bit, that elementary age where they're really comfortable taking them on some of, they've done a few domestic trips or they've done, some smaller trips, and now they're really ready to hit up the safaris or Australia or, Southeast Asia, and they're really ready for those kinds of things. And so I consider them millennial families, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
They're families with young kids, and travel was important, before they started a family, and they're sort of gearing that back up and saying, okay, we're going to start traveling. We're going to do one big trip a year, for our family. And we're sitting down, we're coming up with like a 5-year plan of where they want to go and how it's going to get there. And so I think that they're millennial families. So yeah, I think that is something that I'm seeing.
How do you see this crisis changing the way travelers view travel advisors? We've heard from consumer media and from travel agent networks on how travelers fully understand the value of a travel advisor now. What are your thoughts on this?
I think we're going to be swamped after this.
That's a good thing.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, there have been
I know it's going to happen.
There have been tons of stories in the media about how it's almost impossible to get through to the suppliers. They're jamming people into phone call centers. I was online this morning on a couple of websites where people were saying to me that even websites for some of the airlines weren't working properly. Filing a cancellation or refund request wasn't working. And some of these people were commenting, do you think the supplier's doing it on purpose? They're trying to make it difficult on us. I'm seeing all of this in that sort of dark media where it's like behind the scenes. It's not prominent on a Facebook page or an Instagram feed where somebody's just bashing a supplier of some kind. I'm hearing people having these private discussions, and all of it leads back to these people didn't know how to make this easy on me. And I'm going to remember that. And that plays right into a travel advisor's hands. And I think any travel advisor on this call today who is not asking for testimonials from clients who you've saved over the last 2 weeks, say to them, hey, as you're aware, I don't get paid until you travel. It would really be great if I could start getting some testimonials up on my page for everything I've done the last week or two, and I'd really like it if you could do that. But please, people, this is the chance to keep that momentum going and getting those stories out there to your prospects and your clients that you make a difference, especially in a time of crisis.
And tag them so their friends see it too.
And tag them. Yeah. So I definitely see travel advisors becoming more popular, and we've just got to not passively wait for it. Go be proud of yourselves. Go out there and tell them about it.
In Recommend's Family Travel Trends survey, respondents said that the top emerging trends are ancestry travel, visiting off the beaten path destinations, and Christmas time vacations. Are you seeing this pattern in your bookings?
Oh yeah,
You're nodding.
definitely. Yeah.
That's all
Can
I
you
do.
share a
So
little bit more?
Yeah.
Now, Crystal, your community, you've actually done very specific heritage tours.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. So over the last couple of years, a lot of Africa, um, you know, um, heritage tours for and then also a lot of European destinations for the Holy Land and spiritual adventures. People. That's where my client tell the families. They want to take their children, their grandchildren, to have these experiences, and versus like I say, something that's going to grow their minds. Or their lives. Them as human beings. And so that's the main focus of the travelers that come into my office or my space or talk to me. And I do free webinars, I do free events, and over here also to just bring people in, because I always wanted to be more than just about selling stuff, right? I want to be more about learning stuff.
I like that. Kim, you were nodding. Do you want to add anything to that? Ancestry travel?
I
vacation?
definitely, Christmas, I've seen a lot of families over the last couple of years saying they don't want to spend it with their families, so they're doing trips of their immediate family, Adventures by Disney, or just doing like some Christmas market, either FITs for Christmas markets, or, I wish more of the river cruises would do some more family, Adventures by Disney does, but, that's where I've seen it.
And our final question, but we have some from the listeners. The world has changed in the last few weeks. How has that changed how you envision the role of the travel advisor?
Mm.
So we know they want you. How do you see your role changing?
Well, as for me, I always looked at myself as an advisor, like a navigator, right? And so I was this person before I came into the travel space. So to, take that life experience that I have and share it, with people, so now even more, during, this new age that we have all been thrust into, to continue that, that advisor persona. I think that's what agents need to focus on, because it got distorted before all of this. That sell, cheap thing. And so I never got into that cheap thing. No, I'm an expert. When you present yourself in a certain way, people will respond actually, and and don't have that fear that, oh, I'm gonna lose somebody. You won't.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, from the beginning till, I was always how I got into this space was because I was the one that everyone would come to help with travel, because I traveled so much on my own, and it just kind of became this after I had my kids. But the same as you, Crystal, it's like I've always tried to present myself as that advisor or the expert, and like I said, never putting up just a million promotions and sales, and because that's not what I do.
yeah, I agree. I'm hoping that there's a little bit less of, when people ask what you do, or, when people are trying to understand, oh, I didn't know travel agents still existed, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you're explaining what you do. There are certainly a lot of people who really respect and appreciate the expertise that we bring to the table, but there is a large population of people who think, I can do that myself. Why would I hire you to do it? Why would I pay you to do something I can do myself? But I think that this has clearly shown that we do a lot more than something you can just do for yourself. And I hope that, you know, people learn more and more and hear more testimonials like Richard mentioned, and, you know, read more articles about the nightmares that people who booked online or booked on their own are having. And it really does help our industry overall.
Thank you. Now,
I was just going to say, Michelle, if there's one thing I could change in this industry, it would be that the training that's provided by a lot of the destinations and suppliers that these agents sell is if it was more focused on, you know, figuring out who in your CRM and your current portfolio looks like our ideal client. If we could have more of that coming out of this environment, this current environment, where these people in front of us right now, Crystal, Jennifer, and Kim, if they were armed with more, hey, you know, you booked this kind of trip for this person 2 years ago, they're primed for this kind of trip, and giving them the marketing assets and the, you know, the support to figure out how to keep teasing those previous clients back into the sales funnel with additional experiences. I would love to see us come out of this with suppliers and destinations supporting travel advisors more. So I hope I didn't insult anybody on the call today about that.
Okay, I know we're running a little short on time, but we have some questions from the listeners, so we can answer a few of these, as many as we can get through. The first one is from Rainer from the Family Travel Association. And he says, do you see family travel coming back stronger than other segments in the industry after this current coronavirus situation?
I do. I
think
believe
so.
it will. Yeah.
Yes.
I believe it will, because people are having this time together. I believe is going to help families really appreciate life. Number one, and you know, and the things that can happen, you know, unexpectedly, and so it's going to really fuel that desire to, you know, spend more time together and get out and discover the world.
I agree.
Do you charge a research fee for things that you look up for your clients?
I charge a service fee for every trip I book. And the service fee varies depending on the complexity of the trip. Obviously, you know, 1 week in Mexico is nothing compared to 2 weeks traveling around Europe. So once I have an understanding of what the trip is going to be after our first call, I give them usually a range of about approximately what I think their service fee will be. And then, you know, I'll send them an email, or I can tell them over the phone if I really do know what it's going to be. But it's always based on the complexity of the trip. And it varies.
So you send them that price after the first initial call?
We talk about it during the first call, and I usually, sometimes I know exactly, like I've done the trip before, I know exactly what it's going to be. Sometimes I'm saying, well, or if they don't actually know exactly what their trip's going to be, they're thinking it might be a week, they might be, oh, well, maybe we'll have 2, or, you know, so we'll kind of say, well, once you get back to me with the details, the service fee is going to be like between $400 to $600 or something like that.
Okay.
I give them a range so they know what to expect. I'm not just sending them a random invoice. But sometimes it's like, we're going to do 1 week in Iceland. We want to self-drive the ring road. I've done it 1,001 times. I know exactly how much I'm going to charge for that. So I'm able to give them the exact number in the phone call, but not always. So, and I explain to them that it varies, so that when they contact me for a second trip, just because they paid me $350 last year doesn't mean they're going to pay me $350 today. It's based on the trip itself, and I'm pretty clear about that.
Kim?
Yeah, I don't. It depends on the trip for what I'm doing. If I'm just doing a regular Disney vacation, I don't. But if they have other stuff already planned and I'm just helping with the planning, then I do charge a fee. For FIT trips, definitely, and then the service fee would depend on the complexity of the trip.
I will jump in. Sorry, I want to add one thing to that. Is when I talk about my service fee and the value and the things that I do that aren't included in my commission that I would make, I am now going to use coronavirus as an example of why I charge a service fee. I think it's a perfect, you know, because no one really minds paying it, but I always explain why I charge a service fee, because there's so much more I do than just book, you know, find you a hotel. And I will use this as an example of all the work that I've put in that I will never get paid for.
And Crystal,
Right, I do charge a service fee also, and it is based on the complexity of the trip. You know, whether it's a individual, or however large the group may be.
okay. Speaking of budget, how do you ask what theirs is without making them feel insulted?
I never thought of being insulted. I'll say, I said, do you have a budget in mind? What you do, because I think it's a valid question. I tell them it's, to help me better, put you in the right hotels. That's why I'm asking you kind of how you travel. I never think they're actually telling me the real budget, but a lot of times. But I definitely I just think it's a valid question.
Yeah, and what I'll do also is, if there's a little hesitation when we, get to that part, I'll start with, well, do you prefer 5-star or 4-star? You see, and then that helps them bring it in. That helps them understand it better. And then I'll go, down to tourist class. So, so then at least that way, okay, if they don't have a clear picture, they can understand, tourist class is budget, or 5 stars luxury. And so then they'll, okay, well, no, I want to be in the middle. I want 4, so, okay. And then I can give them an estimate just from that, off the top of my head, because a lot of these destinations they call for, I've already done them 1,000 times. So I can give them an estimated budget from that, and we can move forward.
I've also asked a few times if someone, because if you're thinking, I don't know how much it costs a family of 5 to travel around the Greek islands. Like, I don't know what that's going to be, they really don't know how much their trip is going to cost, but then we can kind of go, okay, well, how much are you comfortable on per night? They do know how much they've spent on the last hotel they stayed at, wherever that might be. So then they can say, all right, well, I'm not really comfortable spending more than $500 a night. That's my limit on, accommodations. So now we've got a starting point and we're able to kind of go from there. Like, all right, well, there's going to be domestic air, then we're going to add in, and then we're able to create a budget a little bit together if they really don't know.
Yeah, I'll say, just to say, air probably is going to cost you at least, $1,000 a person for Europe or something. So, that gives us a place to start. If you don't know, just think about it. At least you're going to have that just as the base to start to help them think about it.
Back to the budget question. Someone just asked, if you start too high when you give them an estimate, do they get turned off?
I never just throw out a budget with a random number. Like, they're never just going to get something that's going to say $20,000 on it. If they're not giving me a number, I will say, I think this is going to cost between 10 to 15,000, or where are you with that? And they're like, that sounds reasonable. Okay. And then I send them a quote and it's $15,000 and they say, actually, that's a little high. We want to come down. Then we can just kind of can go down from there. But I'm never just, because if in their head they're thinking 5 and I'm sending them 20, we're never going to get there. We're never going to be able to get to that budget. So before I hang up the phone, if they can't give me a number, I'm throwing numbers to them to see if it's reasonable. And if I've never had someone be like, no, that's unreasonable. But if I did, then I probably wouldn't move forward, because I don't want to charge them a service fee. I don't want to work for them if we're not on the same page for their budget, because I want to, once they've paid me, I want to give them what they're asking for. So we have to make sure we know what they're asking for and we're both on the same page first.
Exactly. I've had situations where I had guy trips where, the guys, can be, a certain way. And well, I don't have a budget. And I've actually said this to a guy, it was a fraternity, and I said, okay, Jay-Z, so are you telling me You know, he's like, oh, wait a minute. So that's why I play around with them, you know, sometimes, and you know, just to bring them down to earth.
Okay, we're going to do one more question before we wrap this up. Do any of you list the customer's requested vacation and have some alternatives which could increase or reduce the overall price at the onset?
Can you say the question again?
Yeah,
So
I was
when
a
you
little thrown
present
off too.
them with an itinerary at the first point that you give them the itinerary, do you give them options for things that will either increase or decrease their overall budget or overall cost?
If we're looking at a specific, yeah.
Mhm.
If it's a destination, so if I'm looking at, you know, we want a beach, right? We want all inclusive. They just say all inclusive beach. I'll say, are you comfortable with these islands? And then I'll usually give them, you know, maybe one or two choices that have a budget range that I think would be good fits for them. I use Travify, which I really like, and we'll build a budget, you know, an itinerary for them in there, just as an example.
Yeah, I think that I qualify, like we kind of go down the line verbally or via email before I get to the actual itinerary. I will only make one itinerary. I'll change it a million times after I've made that one, but I'm not going to like make 2 or 3 itineraries and let them choose from which one they want. If that's the question, I wouldn't do that. That's too much time. But I'll talk to them and say, you know, here's the itinerary. You know, we can, if you want to reduce costs, we can choose some different accommodations. We can, you know, get rid of the private guides. You know, I'll give them ideas on ways we can reduce it. And then once they sort of answer those questions of how they want to reduce it, then that's when I'll do the actual work. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it's like if you would give them an option whether a private tour is going to cost this much, a group tour will cost this much when you're presenting the itinerary.
I don't break it down like that. I just say these are the ways we'll shave costs. If they say we need to shave it, you know, by $3,000, and I'll say, well, this is what I would suggest doing, and then I'll find a way to do it.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, we've reached the end of the webinar. First, before we close off, we want to announce the winner of the $100 gift card, and that goes to Lori Holden. So congrats, Lori. You with the gift card information. And thank you, Jennifer, Kim, Crystal, Richard, for taking time out of your day. I know you're all been extremely busy the past few weeks with everything going on, but hopefully this was a nice break for everyone, a little distraction in your day.
Definitely.
Definitely was.
Nice distraction, yes.
Thank you so much.
We'd like to thank our sponsors and the Family Travel Association for this webinar, and everyone listening and everyone on the call, please stay safe and thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Flatten the curve.
Bye.
Bye.
Nice to meet
Bye.
you all. Bye-bye.